Hello, this is Tim Rowe, Business Architect for Systems Management for IBMI. I'm out of the Rochester Lab in Minnesota. For today's session, we're going to spend some time talking about how to access and manage your IBMI system, both today and, more importantly, well into the future. So, as we get started, we'll take a look at what we've been doing here at IBMI. I need to discuss a little bit about our strategy because we've had a significant fundamental switch in our strategy as well as in the products that we have available for you in performing these various tasks. And then, of course, I like to do some demos, and so even though this is a virtual conference, which could be perceived as kind of boring, we're going to throw a few demos in there so you can actually see some of this working in real life. So before we dig into the products, let's talk a little bit about the strategy. When I think about accessing and managing the IBMI, I have three different key groups that I have broken down this functionality into. The first being our user community. Not necessarily my user community, but really more your user community. These are the folks in your shops that need to access the IBMI. Typically, they need to have a 5250 green screen. Maybe they need to look at spool file output. Maybe occasionally some may have a need to do some data transfer. But that's really the core of the work that they need to do. And so what are the tools that we need to have for that particular group? And then the next key group is the system managers. These are the folks that work on the IBMI day to day to keep the machine running, look at what's going on from a performance metrics perspective, understand how the machine is behaving, and be able to understand that in a way that they can take the appropriate actions to keep the machine healthy and keep your businesses running well. And then the third category, much along the lines as those that are managing the system, is the database engineer that's really managing and working with the database. Yeah, there's some overlap between the system manager and the DB2, but the DB2 guy is really focusing on managing the database and making certain that the plan caches are properly and your SQL indexes are being used to their best availability, and looking at what makes sense to keep our systems running well from a data perspective. So for a long time, our strategy on IBMI was what I like to call a one-size-fits-some methodology, and that's our Access for Windows support. Access for Windows has been around since 1995, so it's had a very good long shelf life. It served the community very well, and when we delivered Access for Windows, the device landscape of the day was really only one device, and it was Windows. That was primarily the device that everybody used, both from a corporate as well as from a home perspective. Well, that world is changing. The world today is no longer only a Windows-centric place. We have a lot of other devices that have become key to doing our daily business work, including things like Mac, Linux, and really more importantly, I think, mobile. And the world of mobile is really radically changing the paradigm when it comes to the devices that we need to be able to use to manage, access, and work with our IBMI systems. So if we look at our core strategy then, there was, beyond the device issues, no Linux or Mac or mobile support, there was a few other real key issues that we continued to hear from our customers that we needed to try to figure out a way to solve. One of the most important ones was the deployment issues. Access for Windows required a full system installation using the Windows installer on every Windows device that you wanted to run it on. Yes, it was a known entity, but it was also a very expensive entity. Many of our customers would roll out new versions of Access for Windows only when their user got a brand new machine. So they were on a cadence of updating Access for Windows every 3 to 4 years. And so users were really not able to take advantage of some of the latest functionality that is available to them within these tools, as well as, and this is the really scary and far more important aspect, security and defect updates. In the Access for Windows versions, some of the older ones, there are reported security vulnerabilities that are part of that particular application. They've been reported to IBM, and we've taken the appropriate actions, and we've provided updates and fixes to that Access for Windows support. But unfortunately, due to the cost of rolling that out, many of our users haven't been able to roll out the latest versions. And so that's a real problem. And because of that, we needed to think of a better way. So as we look at what those answers might be, we wanted to provide solutions that were device and operating system neutral, to be honest. We wanted to have a single application that as much as possible could run anywhere. We wanted to have extreme flexibility for the administrator of these different shops so that they have the ability to control what their user community has access to, what they use, and can do it in a way that's really simplified that allows them to roll out new updates incredibly simply. Whether you're rolling out an update for one user or you're rolling out an update for 1,000 users, I'd like to be able to do that update in a matter of minutes, not a matter of months. And so those are some of the key themes that we put in front of us as we look to what are we going to do as we move into the future of managing and accessing our IBMI. And so we've moved from the one-size-fits-some to a solution that has a number of different options, and it's really more about using the right option for the task that you're trying to accomplish. The flagship piece of this is our Access Client Solutions. We call that ACS, and that is the piece that's used by the majority of our user community, our system administrators, our database engineers, and then depending on what else you might want to be doing, that's where Access for Mobile comes into play. Obviously, that's going to be geared for our mobile user. For our system manager, our Navigator support is really important in that space, as well as our application or administration runtime expert tool. Excellent tool for the administrator to use to help them manage and understand what's going on the IBMI. So let's kind of dig into what the portfolio looks like today. So XE1, our Access for Windows support, several years ago we made the announcement that that would no longer be supporting newer versions of Windows, and so that version is not supported on Windows 10. Our XH2 support, that is the web-based support that we've had for a number of years that we've gone in and refactored and reimagined to be the centerpiece of our mobile delivery. We also had an XL1 product for a few years, and that was primarily geared strictly for our Linux distribution. We've pretty much killed that. That is no longer available. So the support that we have today is Access Client Solutions. That is where we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about right now. It's made up of three primary components. There's the core offering, and the core offering is the one that everybody needs and wants to be able to use. That is where you have your emulator and your data transfer and your spool file support and all of your rich database functionality. It's all built into that core platform independent component. Now, there's one of the things that was in Access for Windows as well was the .NET and the ODBC drivers. That was one of the other pieces that was packaged in there. And so to meet that particular need, we've created this Windows application package as well as the Linux application package. These packages actually contain the ODBC and .NET drivers, and those are specifically entities that are applied as an installed product on your Windows or Linux workstation. So if you don't need the ODBC or .NET drivers, then you don't care about the application packages. The only thing you care about is the core offering. And if that's the case, the cool thing is you can actually have the core offering and your Access for Windows can run on the same device right side by side. So it makes it very easy to help you with that transition between one to the other. So some of the frequently asked questions that we get about Access for Windows that I want to address right up front is people ask, well, what versions of IBMI does ACS support? Basically anything. Our announced support is any supported version of IBMI. So that means 7.1, 7.2, 7.3. But we also know we support 5.4, 6.1. We know it can also connect to much older releases as well without any issues. And the reason for that is we're leveraging all the same ports, all the same licensing, all the same host servers, everything from a plumbing and under the covers perspective, it's exactly the same. So when people ask about what does ACS cost, well, ACS itself is a no-charge client, but it leverages the XW1 licenses that are on your IBM I server, which are the exact same licenses that was used as part of your Access for Windows support. So that piece is exactly the same. So as we look at some of the next things here, we're going to dive into specifically the emulator. Let's talk about the Access for Windows emulator versus the emulator that's in the ACS support. Now, in some ways you'd think, well, it's an emulator. What can be different? Let's take a look. First, our emulators work on Mac, they work on Linux. For me personally, this is awesome. I have a Mac. I have an amazing emulator that I use on my Mac every day. So that's one thing that's really kind of cool. And the other thing, the runtime that runs on my Mac, it's exactly the same runtime that runs on Windows or Linux. It's just how you launch it that's different. Additionally, how do you get ACS? ACS is amazingly easy to get. Unlike many of the IBM I products where you need to go to ESS or Passport Advantage or some other difficult place to navigate to find things, ACS is available through a easy web download. If you go to Google and you type in IBMI space Access, you'll end up at this page right here. There's a link right there, the first link on the page. Download IBMI Access Client Solutions base package. It's that easy. You click on that and you can be up and running in a matter of minutes. So really trying to keep things simplified. And now, once you have it downloaded, where can you put it? Well, this is where things get incredibly interesting. So I can put it on my C drive. That's just like I could do when I was in Access for Windows, right? I had the ability to go on my C drive right here, right? I can also put it on thumb drives. Thumb drives are interesting. We have some customers that are doing this, whether it's a manufacturing site, whether it's some business partners that have to support different companies and different systems. They can put all of their configuration information out on the thumb drive, walk into any PC, plug it in, and they have everything they need right there ready to go. And it runs directly from there, leaving no residue, no extra files, no nothing on that endpoint PC that you plugged into. The other one that's really cool, this one up here, the ability to connect and deploy ACS from a network share. This is really, really powerful. This is where we get the ability to have one copy of ACS with thousands of users connected to it and using it. So I can put ACS on a network share, create a desktop on all of my endpoint users' desktops, both Windows desktops as well as Mac desktops, and they can all point to the exact same copy of ACS, and they can launch it from the network share. That version in the network share will be downloaded to their PC. It'll be loaded up and started on their native PC, and now it's running native. If you have an update, you update that one copy that's out in your network share, and you're done. The next time all of these extra users start ACS, they get that version. And the cool thing is, it runs on any client device that has a full JVM. runs on Java. So Windows 10, it works on the Microsoft Surface, it works on the primary versions of Linux, it works on Mac, Windows. It'll even run on IBM I really quite well because IBM I has a full JVM built into it. So some really cool options to allow you to get multiple users up and running. We also have a cool wizard that will allow you to go and do different things. So I can have the wizard that's part of our ACS deployment allows you to very quickly and easily set up a copy of ACS that can be deployed to a single user or to multiple users. And so it creates the desktop shortcuts for you. It can create the file associations if you want. It can do other customizations to help you build the package so that your users you're distributing this to only have the support that you want them to have. Additionally, we also have the ability to auto-push configurations, which is actually quite interesting and very cool. I can create and set up my 5250 session profiles. I can include, color mapping and watermarking support, keyboard mappings, macros, all sorts of different preferences that are built around your emulators, and those can be automatically then pushed out to your users, so you can get all your users up and running on a very consistent image incredibly quickly and incredibly easily. One of the other features that's just way cool about the ACS emulator, and I know we shouldn't get too excited about something that should be expected behavior, but nonetheless, this is cool, is the ACS in the 5250 in ACS supports the devices that you work with. So for example, the mouse, we have the little wheel that's in the middle of your mouse, which is used for scrolling. Well, I can go into my emulator, go to something like Work Active Job, and I can scroll down page by page using my mouse wheel. On my Mac, I have this wonderful touchpad, and I can use my 2 fingers to swipe on my touchpad to scroll up and down, which is really nice because on my Mac, I don't have a page up or a page down key. They don't come with one. But the good thing is, I don't need one. The other thing that's really cool about the new emulator in ACS is the ability to do watermarking. Watermarking is really, really cool. Now, as opposed to trying to show you in a presentation, it's a whole lot more interesting if I actually kind of jump over and let's look at this from a demo perspective, because I think it really helps bring things home. So here's my ACS that I have up and running. I have my list of systems that I care about, and I'm going to launch the emulator for one. Right? So there we go. I have an emulator. I have my basic green screen up and going. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes it's hard to see this little small system name that's up here in the upper right-hand corner. And I know we don't want to do the wrong thing on the wrong system. So how can you actually help you visually understand what systems you're working on? Well, some people have taken to changing the font text so that, maybe this is a green one and my text on another system comes up purple. Yeah, you can do that, but I think there's a better way. So if I go over to one of my other systems, let's open the emulator on that, you can see here I've got an image watermark. This happens to be of a Challenger that's actually quite cool, and I can see very quickly visually that I have a very different system that's running here. Well, maybe I have another system and I can go to that one and I can open up that and I can have a different car to help me visually see what systems I'm working on. Or I can take a real radical approach to things and let's change everything. Let's go with a white background. Maybe I have my company business logo in the background. And wow, this looks like a really different interface compared to the old green screen. So it really allows you to kind of think outside of the box, both with images as well as the ability to come in and very quickly and easily change to text. So in this case here, I want to, my text that I want to show is Tim's dev machine Of course, it helps if you can spell, but I want the text, let's put the text in orange. I'm going to put the opacity fairly dark so you can actually see it really well. Maybe I'm going to tile it, and there we go. Now I can clearly see what machine that I'm working on. And you have a lot of options, whether, like I say, text or images. The other thing you may have noticed is I've got my emulator session up. I have one window here, and look, I've got tabs that allow me to quickly and easily go back and forth between my sessions. Kind of nice. The other thing that is rather fascinating is I can grab a tab and I take and drop that out to my desktop. And when I drop it to my desktop, guess what? I've got two separate windows side by side. So it allows you to have this nice, neat, compact way of looking at your systems, yet when you need, it's very easy to pull that window out and put it wherever you want. The other thing that's rather nice about the ACS version is how you set up your keyboard mappings. So under my preferences, I go to keyboard. In the old version, we gave you a fake image of a keyboard where you would select a set of keys and then try to go find the function you wanted to assign to it. Here you do it a little differently. I select the function that I want. You know, the one that's probably most interesting to me is some of the F keys. In this particular case, you know, F2, I can go click on assign a key, and now I actually go to my keyboard and I can hit Command and the number 2, and there it is. It's assigned meta +2 as the keyboard stroke for the F2 function key. Really simple, really easy way to do that. I can save this and then send this off to everybody as part of that group setting. So it's a really cool way and a very nice way of doing that. Additional things, you know, appearance. It's really easy to go change my colors, my fonts, as well as some of the other components. If you wanted to adjust your mouse wheel support, we have a tab for that. You can also go under your tab setup, and if you really don't like the tabs, well, you can turn that off quite easily as well. So a lot of things that are built into our emulator that really make it very convenient for doing your green screen work. Some of the other things that we've added in here, there's a lot of function that's in our ACS that we'll get to, things like IFS and the printer output, data transfer. Well, you can get to it obviously from this menu, but you can also get to it from here. Under Actions, I have all of those key things are also listed right here. I can just click on one of those and away I go. So really nice for very easily getting back and forth. Here's a little icon here for spool files. I can go and click on that and it'll launch my spool files, for example. Lots of different ways to do that. One of the other things that we've done within our Navigator, or not Navigator, excuse me, our ACS support is we've changed how we do single sign-on, or excuse me, SSL. With the Windows versions, you had a lot of steps that you had to take in order to enable SSL. With ACS, we've provided a nice wizard that allows you to put your self-signed certificates, embed them into ACS, and do it with a single click of the button. And so a really nice way of doing that. The other feature that's huge, and for those that are in global situations where you need to have multiple users of multiple languages, this is huge. I can just go in, select my code page, and it immediately changes to start displaying that emulator using the language that I just specified, whether it's a single byte or whether it's a double byte. I can have single byte and double byte screens running on the same PC side by side. I don't need to reboot the PC in order to enable it for double byte. I just select my code page and I'm ready to go. So really nice for those situations that require a more global perspective. One of the other things that we delivered last year is we started down the path of delivering a two-factor authentication allowing you to use a smart card that contains your digital certificate that's used to enable and access your IBMI. So if you have a smart card with a certificate on it, you can plug it into your reader, and that can be used in order to enable the certificate to sign on to your IBMI. Pull the card out of the reader, and immediately you're disconnected from your emulator session. So allows you an extra layer of security to meet some of those requirements that your businesses may have from a system access perspective. So let's take a little bit and let's talk about some of the things that are beyond just the emulator, because ACS is incredibly rich and has an awful lot of other features that are there. One of the other popular ones is our data transfer support. Data transfer is remarkably similar to what we had in the Windows version. It does basically all the exact same things, except we now support the latest versions of XLS. So we support XLSS, which is the newest format. We also support open document formats. The only thing that's really different about data transfer in ACS versus the Windows product was the plugin. There was a plugin that allowed you to plug into your Excel spreadsheet and click on the Excel spreadsheet, the little button, and it would do a data transfer for you. That's no longer supported, and that's not so much just because we didn't want to support it. That's something that Microsoft is starting to implement, where they're removing that capability from Excel. So instead, we have something here called Active Data Transfer Support. So I can open up a spreadsheet, I can click on a particular cell in that spreadsheet, and then I can come into my data transfer and I can choose my output file device here to be Active Spreadsheet. And then when I start the transfer, all that data will flow from the IBMI directly into that open spreadsheet file. And I could also go the other direction from the spreadsheet back up to IBMI as well, using that same mechanism. The other key thing about ACS is its console support. If you need to access the console, we support both the 5250 HMC console. We also support the LAN console. If you're going to use 7.3, IBMI 7.3, you need to use ACS in order to leverage the LAN console. That's the only interface that's actually supported. For those that use HMC heavily, and you want to be able to find out where your console is, we have a different way of actually helping you find that. So if I have an HMC, I can connect to the HMC, and we will go and search the HMC for all the different partitions that you have specified. I can select one of the partitions and launch the 5250 console, and it'll launch directly to my 5250 console page. Really easy way to get started with trying to find your console. The other key piece that's needed for many of our general user community is the printer output. Being able to easily find my printer output and be able to view it and work with it. So if I go and launch my printer output page, you can see I have my printer output. You can see right here, this is just printer output that's for me. And if I were to double click on one of these, I'm going to be able to view it. So now I have my spool file that's up and viewable on my page. There's a number of different options, right? If I go under my actions, I can choose to download. I can choose to download and view. I can actually also choose to specify it to a particular location. So I can choose where to put these files if I want. So I can choose to specify any location on my IBMI or on my desktop for doing this download. I can also use the PDF format which is available, which requires the host print transfer support on your IBMI in order to do that. The other thing that we provided here is all of the normal download, or excuse me, management functions. I can hold, release, delete, move. All of those features are also now part of our output support for ACS. And with our mission of really trying to pull together our management tools, one of the things that we've added just last year is the ability to combine our ACS and our Web Navigator. So if I go into my ACS and launch my Web Navigator from ACS, it's going to actually use the sign-on information that, especially if I've already had an emulator open, I would have specified that sign-on information in order to verify the XW1 license. We'll use that information and we'll sign you on directly to the Web Navigator. So allows us to cross-launch nicely between the two interfaces. The other piece that I want to spend just a minute on is our IFS support. So if I go back over to our ACS support, we have this integrated file system. And the integrated file system gives me this lovely little GUI that allows me to view and navigate my IFS on my IBMI. So I can go into my home directory. Maybe I want to dig into one of my this QCHzen, and I can go look at some of these different files that are there. Maybe I have a key file here. Maybe I want to move that to a different system, so I can take and do a send on this, and that'll take and send this to the systems if I choose. So maybe I want to send it to the Common 1 system, and I can go ahead and click on that, and that'll go off and launch, and that'll send that over to this Common 1 system, and it'll take and keep all of the object authorities that were on that particular object as well, because we do a save to a save file as we do that transfer from IBMI to IBMI. Now, the other area that we've been investing in heavily recently is this database area. And you can see we have 3 links: schemas, run SQL scripts, and our SQL Performance Center. Lot of cool functionality that's built into this support here. So let me go over to my common system. I'm going to go do a run SQL scripts. And there we go. I have my run SQL scripts window that I've up and running and I'm connected to. Let's go get some SQL. I have some that I've saved. So I have some totally terrific SQL. And you can see I've got color coding in here. The ability to visually see the different aspects of SQL versus what is other pieces of function or labels. Now if I go to run this, I can just go run from selected. Actually, let's just highlight something here, and we're going to just run the selected one. So it's going to go off, run, and ooh, look at there. I've got my top 4 memory consumers there on a separate page. Really slick, very easy way to do that. The other thing that's built into this is the ability to reformat. So maybe I don't like this the way this is formatted. Not to worry, I can highlight it. And under Editor, I have this SQL formatter. Let's go look at the configuration of it. And I can choose to change things away. So maybe I want custom-built keywords and functions to be lowercase, identifiers to be only uppercase, or maybe I want the first letter to be capitalized. How much indentation do I want? 7 characters is probably too much, so let's bring that down to maybe 4. And when I hit OK, and now I choose to go format it, you can see I just changed the formatting very nicely, very simply, by using the formatter that was part of SQL scripts. This is really good if I have super ugly SQL, like ugly formatted from Windows, right? This is all my SQL is on one simple line. That's not going to come up for some reason. Oh, there it is. It's already been formatted. That's why. I'm getting myself confused. So I've already formatted this. This was all on one particular line. If I come in here again and reformat it based on what I've specified, you can see there we go. We've just moved it. We've just changed the casing. Our things are now lowercase. The other things that I wanted now are specified as first character upper. Everything else is lower, just the way I asked it to be formatted. Schemas is one of the brand new things that we just added here in the release that came out a couple weeks ago. And the ability to go and look at everything about my database. This is all stuff that was in our client navigator before. I can go look at my types. I can go look at my tables. There we go. I have some tables here. If I have aliases, I don't happen to here. There's no journals, row permissions. So, this particular database isn't particularly interesting, but I can go look at my tables. I can right-click on things. I can go look at definitions. I can go do work with related objects and indexes. I can even go look at the SQL plan cache statements for one of these files. And that's going to go ahead and launch my SQL plan cache, where I can then go make some adjustments and I can go show what's going on with the plan cache for this particular object. In this particular case, I don't have anything, but assuming I did, you'd see these entries show up here. So really fantastic tools for helping the database engineer work with their systems. And this is something that we've continued to build and add stuff into over the past few releases. And so in March, just a few short weeks ago, we delivered our latest version where we added CL prompting to our Run SQL scripts. We enhanced some of the highlighting. Insert from examples. How can I forget that? That is one of the best things ever. So let's go back to my ACS. Let's go bring up my Run SQL scripts for a second. I've got my connections here. Now, I'm not exactly a SQL database guy. My database friends laugh at me for that as well. But if I come over here to edit, insert from examples, there is an entire wealth of incredibly cool SQL that's been created for you. My favorites are these ones under IBM I services. We've been creating these services basically as replacements for system APIs and CL commands, allowing you to use SQL to get at information and then use the power of SQL to process the data that's returned by these particular entities. And so, let's say if I want to go look at storage details for all my hardware. So I can go look at that. Oh, there's a bit of SQL that was created. If I go and click Insert, let's go ahead and run that. Oh, I didn't select anything, so let's go run from selected. There we go. I have all my disk usages. This is my work disk status information. Hey, look at that. I'm an SQL expert. I wrote SQL and executed it, and away I went. And Insert from examples has got tons and tons of really good examples to help you get started with SQL and, more importantly, with our new SQL services. So if you're interested in understanding where we are at with the different functions, we have a link out here that will show you the different features that are part of the database user's everyday job and what version of ACS they're delivered in. And you can see, we started out with very little, and now we've added a bunch of things. We have a few things that we're going to be working on the rest of this year, trying to get these items that are below this line taken care of. Lots of cool function that we've delivered and lots more to come. I've already talked about how to get it. The core package is available out on our product website. The application packages for Windows and Linux, those are only available through ESS, so you need to be aware of that. You'll need to go to ESS in order to get those downloaded. So that is some of the key features that are part of our ACS delivery. I'm going to switch gears now because I want to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the other solutions that we have in our portfolio. First, or the next one is I want to spend a minute talking about our mobile support. The mobile support is kind of cool. It allows me to access and manage my IBM I from any web-enabled mobile device. And I truly mean any. It works on iPads, iPhones, your Android devices of any make and flavor. And the way it works, it's a web-enabled program. So there's actually nothing on my mobile device that I need, which is interesting because I can also use this from my web browser. So if I were to open up a new browser window, I could come in here and go to Common 1. Let's go 2001 slash IA mobile. And look at that. I'm now running on my mobile-enabled device. I can go look at my printer output, much like I could with ACS, but I'm looking at it from my phone. So I can open up one of these. I can touch on this. I can go view as a PDF, and look at that. I have my spool file I'm looking at on my mobile phone. Now, obviously, with any of these web or anything on a mobile device, real estate is huge, and we've tried to minimize the amount of stuff that we show on your phones and make it a little bit more friendly to navigate and get around to. But depending on what you do, it's always nice to have a bigger space. And so whether it's an iPad or whatever, one of the other things that's nice, if you can see, we've got a total here of 453 messages in our QSys Opera message queue. I'd like to be able to find all of the ones that need to have an inquiry responded to. So if I go in, type in my filter here, INQ, oh, look at that. I can see I only have one, and I did a very quick filter, and it's showing me, this electronic service agent has not been activated. I can go click on it, and I can actually respond directly from here. Super quick, super easy. We also provided support for things like jobs. And you can look at your active jobs. I can go look at some of the stuff from a system perspective, whether it's products or PTFs or system values. Within my database, I can run SQL scripts even from my mobile phone. One of the things that's really powerful about this is I can go and create my own SQL scripts that I can then save, and they will show up here in the My Requests box. So if I were to open up my Run SQL scripts, I'm going to cheat and go grab some SQL that I have from right over here in my Run SQL scripts. Let's go ahead and paste that guy right in there, and I go and run SQL scripts. It didn't like the formatting. Don't you hate that? Gotta love demos, even on a live virtual conference. I'm not going to try to fix it. I think I'm probably forgetting one small thing, but I can paste those in, run my SQL right from here, and I can save those requests so I can run those again at a later time. The same is true for commands. So I can take and run a CL command. If I have a long command that I want to specify, I can save that, and then that'll show up here in my commands folder, and I can have many commands that I need to run on a regular basis saved off. Probably the most powerful piece of this is our emulator, though, where I can actually start up a 5250 emulator. And there we go. I have an emulator running in my web browser or on my mobile phone. You can see that the formatting is a little bit weird here, and that's because the web doesn't use fixed width fonts by default. So if I go into active session settings, I can change the display fixed width fonts, and I'm going to click on the show function key bar, because that gives me function keys on my mobile phone. Now I can go ahead and sign on to this particular machine. I can go do normal activities. There we go. I can click on my page up, page down buttons. Just tap on those just like you would normally. The other thing that's nice is it responds to normal finger gestures. So I can take and I can expand and zoom in and zoom out on my phone, just like you'd expect from a mobile device. The other thing that's rather interesting about this is under Start Sessions, I can access any machine that's in my network. So I could actually go to a different machine that does not have this Access for Windows support or Access for Mobile support running on it, because I'm using the Telnet server. And I can connect to it from here, whether I use either secure or I can go change my port, and I can actually also specify to use it as a secure connection as well. And we have instructions for that on our website. So that's some of the functionality that's in here. Let's just talk a little bit about how to get it and how to get it set up. This is delivered as part of 5770 XH2. It is a product that you'll need to get from ESS and download to your IBMI. The 7.2 version is the same version that runs on all of our levels of IBMI. So we have a single version. It runs on 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3. So if you're interested in getting it for 7.1, you'll need to order this particular refresh code. The only other thing that you need to do is you'll need to make certain that you have the latest IBMI HTTP server group PTF levels. Make certain here's the numbers for those right here. You can see these particular numbers are the group numbers. And again, you want to have the latest levels. And once you've done your restore license program and done the install, you have one command that you need to run, and that's this config ack web command. You specify the int app server, and the most important is you specify mobile. That will go ahead and do all the configurations and set up our this mobile server on your IBMI running in the admin 5 job. So once you have that done, then I can go and I can access my mobile device using this URL here, and away I go. And you saw the results, right? I'm up and running with this mobile interface. And so really kind of a fascinating way to be able to access my machine when I'm at the grocery store. When you have those emergencies that come up where you're at your son's soccer game and they go, hey, this batch job is dead, what the heck do I do? And so as opposed to having to go in and drive in somewhere, I can break out my phone and I can quickly and easily connect and get at what I need to, all from the comfort of where I happen to be. The last thing I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about is our web navigator. This is a pretty important piece, especially for the system administrator. Now, the world of Navigator has been around for quite some time. We started with it in the client version, which you have today, back in 1995. And we made some attempts at web solutions back in V5R3. Back even in V6R1, we had a version. None of those were very good. Matter of fact, I would consider them both pretty awful. I don't really consider the start of the web navigator until January of 2013, and that's when we came out with the foundation of the version that we have today. And since then, we've continued to make updates and improvements along the continuum to really make Navigator a very usable solution on today's machines. So there's a lot of cool things that are part of the web navigator. I already talked about the auto sign-on support that we have, and to really kind of show what's available, let's kind of go look at some stuff here. So within our web navigator, I've done some things to really make things simple. And, so we as IBMI people tend to talk in 3-letter acronyms versus nice pretty words like we have here. So of course, we can't find anything. So if I wanted to go to work active jobs, right, I could just go into my quick search and do work, and I can see all the different work command interfaces that we have in the GUI. So if I click on active jobs, away I go. There I go. I'm looking at my active jobs on this particular machine, and I can go work with them like I would do normal things. Maybe I wanted to enter in a word of some kind. So like maybe I want to go get disk information. So if I just type in the word disk, I can look at disk units by location. I could look at disk pools. That's probably something that's pretty interesting. Oh, this requires the SST information, so does that. I want to go to memory. Let me try that. Active memory pools, that's the one that I was after. So that's some of the DST support. That's also part of our web navigator. This here is showing me my machine pool information. Very quick, simple to find stuff. I can also take and add things into my favorites. And so maybe I want to take this and save this as a favorite. I can make this memory pools. I want to have a new category called system stuff. And I go ahead and click OK, and now this has been saved off as a favorite. And if I were to go over here to my favorites list, you can see I now have a category called system pools. or system stuff, and memory pools, and I can just click right on that and it launches me directly over to this new memory pool thing. The other thing that is a lot of fascinating information that's part of this is for that system administrator from a performance perspective. Under performance, we have a couple categories, manage collections and investigate data. And in here, we have got literally hundreds and hundreds of graphs to allow you to visualize your collection services information that you've been collecting on your IBMI. Of course, if you know what you're looking for, you can go click through the different lists here to find it. But I don't, so I like to use my investigate data search. I happen to be interested in CPU related things, so if I just type in CPU over here, it's going to go off and it's going to go find all of the graphs that are available about CPU for the different categories, job watcher, collection services. I think I'm going to go look at CPU utilization overview. So I go click on that guy. And now it's going to allow me to pick the collection services file that I want to visualize. And so I'm just going to click the most recent, and now I have a nice graph that's showing what's going on over the past couple hours on this particular machine in a visual perspective. And I can take and drill down and get information, right click. There's different things that you can do for these, select different actions that you can take as well on these graphs. Some of the other things that are really interesting in here is a new category down here. This is new in 7.3 called Graph History, where I can go and I can look at the overall CPU metrics, in this case, for a long period of time. This started in May 4th, and it's been running since June 1st. And so I can see and take a look at, well, how has my CPU utilization been over the past month and a half? And I can take and look at different layers. I can go and dig into a particular entry. I can hover over this and see, well, what was going on here. And if I click on that, I can see all the different users that actually made up this particular set of metrics. And I can see, well, this user was using this much of it, and this one was using some more of it, and you can kind of get a visual representation of all the different parts of these historical information. The other one that's fairly new that we added is something here called monitors. Monitors is also rather interesting from a system. Let's go look at our system monitors. This is something that you were able to do in the client version using Management Central. Being able to create a monitor to watch for a particular activity and perform some kind of action when something occurred. So this here is got disk response time. This is system CPU utilization. Let's go click on this guy here. If I right click, we added the ability to visualize this. Well, there we go. I can go look at what is going on from the disk response time over a period of time. And I can take and go look, scroll back and forth and look at the different dates and times and see, all the way back. It goes back quite a ways. And I can take and look at this information. I can actually see what the value is by hovering over it. This is really like a dashboard. It allows me to put this up into a separate window if I wanted to, because I can go click on this tab and I can move to new window. And now I can leave this page up. And this page, every time Collection Services collects a new data point, it will automatically enter a new link for me on that particular page. So it's a really cool way of seeing what's going on almost from a dashboard perspective. Now, speaking of dashboards, one of the other things that we added is this live dashboard. Up here in the upper link navigation, we have a thing called dashboard, and the dashboard is going to give me what's going on now. It's much the same as how we've done performance management on the green screen for long times. CPU utilization. This is the same as going into work active job and hitting the PF5 refresh key. Page faults. It's really not any different than going in and looking at work system status. Disk utilization. Going and working work disk status and hitting PF5. Well, right now I have this set on an auto refresh capability, and this is set to refresh, I believe it's once every minute. And so you can see right now we have one little dot over here on the left-hand side. And every minute or so, this will go and fire, and it'll update and add a new dot to my dashboard, showing me in a kind of a real live time perspective what's going on my IBMI. So nice little feature for looking at what's going on from the Web Navigator. Now, the Web Navigator support, this is something that you have already on your IBMI today. If you have the latest HTTP PTF group, you have Navigator. It's already there. We deliver it. It runs part of your SS1 Option 3 support, and it's something that is very easy to access and get to. You just go to port 2001, and it'll launch to the correct URL. One of the other features that we've included in our Web Navigator is a PTF compare tool. So if you have multiple systems that you want to keep track of, you could use the Web Navigator to keep track of that. So as you can see, we've been really working hard to really add a number of different components, different ways to help our user community access, manage their IBMI systems from the interfaces that make sense to them, and also do it in a way that makes it easy for both you and us to provide new function, to provide fixes, and to make certain that are secure as we go into the future. So really thank you for your time. If you have any questions, love to hear from you. Don't hesitate. You can always reach out to us at timmer@us.ibm.com. Thank you again, and hope you enjoyed the conference.